pushing you the most frightening, scary, spooky, creepy, ghastly, ghoulish, grisly, wonderful time of the year.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween!
Hi, I'm Eric D'Amato,
And I'm Classic Gamer.
and welcome to a very special episode of the Narwhal and Classix Post-Play Podcast. Why is it special, you may be wondering? Well, I don't know if you've looked at a calendar recently, but it happens to be October, which means it's Halloween. Whole month is Halloween, and it's time to look at some spooky games.
Yes, definitely. Even though we're not recording it in October.
Now, obviously, we record these a bit ahead of when they're coming out, just so we don't want to. You never want to be in a rush. But today we're looking at a game we both played based on the works of H.P. Lovecraft, Call of Cthulhu: The Dark Corners of the Earth.
Which came out for PC and the original Xbox.
This is by Bethesda GameWorks or Studio. I think they were called Studios back then. That is not important. It's a first-person shooter style game based on the works of H.P. Lovecraft. We play a detective whose name escapes me at the moment.
Jack Walters.
Jack Walters. Walters or Waters?
Walters, I believe.
Jack. Play an American police detective called Jack Walters, who we meet in Boston, and there's a cult holed up in a house, and they've been harassing people.
Boston, Massachusetts.
That's the one. And they're going in to the cops are going to go in. This is about the 20s, like 1912, 1920 about. The cops want to go in.
It's
but
after
they
the war.
requested-
It's after the war.
Yeah, it's after the First World War.
Or the Great War,
And-
as it's more commonly known.
Well, that's only in England. Really, that's called the Great War.
Well, it is. We do call it the First World War, but it's also known as the Great because the Second World War, let's face it, should never have happened. It was just
No.
Germany being jealous of the fact they had to sign a peace treaty, which they agreed to. And yeah, so it's set after the war. Obviously, it was
So a lot of the harsher stipulations in that actually were requested and demanded by France. So that is the history of the world. Everything can be blamed on France all the time.
yes, and
Everything is the fault of the French.
everyone likes to blame.
I'm being facetious. I'm joking.
Everyone likes to blame the French. Like
Everyone likes.
yeah. Even though
But
they've been very
heading
kind
into-
to a lot of countries.
They have. But they're heading into Statue of Liberty was actually built by France for
And
our
given
American
to the Americans as a gift, I believe.
Mhm.
But how they got
But-
that bloody thing all the way, I don't know.
sections. It was in sections.
Oh.
So they back on topic. The cult really wants to speak to Jack Walters. So Jack Walters goes in because they're going to try to let him defuse the situation before they just go in and kill everybody, because it's a cult. And they have been armed, and they have been shooting at police from the house. So he goes in. You go in the house as Jack Walters, and already we start to get a look at like this fun feature this game has, which is the sanity meter.
Yes.
Like all sorts of anything frightening that you look at deeply affects Jack Walters.
Sorry for the background
Now-
noise. My cat's decided to jump up and say hello.
They tend to do that. Hi, Socks. How you doing? Now, this is I quite like this going further into the game when you get to Shoggoths and Fishmen and Dagon and stuff. And some of the more grisly, horrifying murders. But I don't know. Jack Walters is he's a police detective. I'm pretty sure he's seen a dead body before. I don't think it should give him that much of a panic attack.
Well, I think like it's not just seeing a dead body; it's anything he sees that is remotely frightening to the eye, sort of like a picture,
Hmm.
the situation where he's being chased, which we'll get onto those chase
Well, I'm just
sequences a bit
speaking
later.
specifically in the house. He sees a cultist who shot himself in the head,
In
and he
front of him.
acts. Oh, that is. But there's the one you find in the hallway. Well, the one in front of him makes sense, but the one in the hallway is already
Well, and most of them have killed themselves through cyanide poisoning as well.
dead. Mhm. And he sees some posters of eldritch shit, like of Cthulhu monsters of eyes and tentacles. The H.P. Lovecraft shorthand for otherworldly. Just masses of eyes and tentacles.
Yes.
So he meets the guy who wanted to talk to him, who, as you said, shoots himself in front of him. He then heads into the basement where
Through the
there is this
library.
through the library. Uh, I don't know if you did this, but as always, read every single document. Had a look at all the stuff.
I
Read
don't.
all the
I
stuff.
don't. I don't read all of it.
And he gets to the basement, and in the basement there's this weird, horrifying machine, and it makes a flash of green energy, and then these things come out of it.
Well, before that, you find that guy on the strap to that thing with all these organs spread around the room. Don't forget that.
Yeah, that's
And
quite
you can
cool.
have
That
a bit of fun with him actually. You can leave him there to sit. Well, actually, you have to use it. You have to kill him to get the jewel, so you can get down to the downstairs, the further down anyway. But he's basically been gutted and he's been kept alive, which I find really hard to get my head around when this is the 1920s and he's on a machine that looks like it's a life support machine.
I mean, this the purpose of this machine is to open a gate to another dimension where other dimensional creatures come out. So maybe they got it from the other dimension.
Very likely.
And they had some life support, like they had iron lungs and stuff back then. Still, they had really primitive life support technology.
Very early stages.
Like you'd be alive, but you couldn't do anything type stuff.
Yeah, I think it's the people call it, the definition is it's like being a potato.
Mhm.
Like so you're alive, but you're effectively either brain dead or like the rest of your body won't work or function.
So the portal opens, and creatures that I'm gonna spoil what they are now, because I can't just call them things. I can't describe them. Obviously, they're Lovecraft creatures. I can't describe these things, but they are the great race of Yith. These creatures.
Yes, and they come through the portal and Jack passes out and then
He just he shuts down,
yeah, he the
as you would too.
yeah, seeing the guy strapped to that thing starts it all off, and then after seeing them, he kind of just loses the will to live. Well, not loses the will to live, but loses the will to be able to stand up straight and know
He
what
just
he's
has a
doing.
total mental. He just has a total freaking mental breakdown.
Yeah, a total breakdown, total meltdown as well. And then it skips 6 years where I think you're in his office and he's
Because you
kind
were in an yeah, you're in his office, and we get a bit of
backstory of when
this
he was
is
in the asylum.
based on another one of the stories. Shadow Out of Time, I think it was. That's it's a lot like this, because it's interesting what was going on with Jack, but we'll get to that at the end, because there's something really cool that was going on with Jack.
So
He's in his office, and he gets a call. This Burnham has gone missing.
yeah, it's the head of the national paper or something, the national that's overseeing the entire sort of county of that area, or overall boss, and he says the guy in charge of the one a small town called of Innsmouth has gone missing. So first of all, you say not interested. Then you kind of put the phone down. You look at some stuff. You think about it, and then you go, "Okay, right, I'll do it." Um, should have been easier, Jack, just to say no.
Yeah, but then we wouldn't have a game.
No, but he probably could
It would
save
be
himself a lot
like
of heartache.
in Matrix Path of Neo. You can make the game very, very short by taking the blue pill when Morpheus offers.
Yeah, you
And you
can.
get a game over.
Yeah, it literally will end the game. You'll go back to your normal life, and the game will end, and then you're forced to reload.
Yeah. Or just uninstall the game and play something better.
Well, I don't mind a Path of Neo.
But that's a future episode.
Yeah, that's a future episode. But
Now, this is less based, I will say, on the actual story of Call of Cthulhu. It actually has very little to do with the Call of Cthulhu story. Cthulhu does not show up in this game at all, actually. There's a little statue of him, but that's about it. You can look at the statue too, but you'll lose your goddamn mind, because that's Cthulhu. It's based more on the pen and paper role playing game called Call of Cthulhu. That's what the sanity meter is from and everything.
I didn't know that.
It's like the Vampire and the Masquerade games are based on that pen and
I know
paper
that
game.
there's a game, another Call of Cthulhu game called Shadow of the Comet or something.
That's recent, I think.
No, it was before this one.
No, that's old. That's really old.
Yeah. I think it's more like a point and click.
Point and click or even text based. I think it's old enough. It's like late 80s, mid 90s kind of game.
Yeah, but so you agree to go to Innsmouth, and then you're suddenly then off the prologue into chapter one.
And everybody and nobody here has heard of No Burnham.
Yes, but you're on the only bus, or the last bus going from where he was before going to Innsmouth. The driver is somewhat talkative, but just explains that we keep to our own. We have the means to survive. We don't need outside help, which becomes
the bus looks like they don't clean this thing ever.
Yeah.
And you notice when you start walking around Innsmouth and looking at the people, everyone looks kind of manky.
They have the Innsmouth taint, I believe it's called.
Yeah, they got bulgy eyes. They're very pale. They're very heavy faces. It looks like something's wrong with them, and they all look kind of related. And this is actually a moment where I think this game's more primitive graphics actually really, really work in its favor. Because it looks dirty. This place looks gross and unpleasant and unfriendly.
Yes, you walk around, no one wants to talk to you. Only two people, I think, in the whole of the maybe three if you include Charlie from the hotel, really wants to talk to you properly. Charlie
doesn't want to talk to you. He's just like, yeah, fine, I got a room, but you don't want it. We don't want you here. I'll tell you the room anyway.
But you find a female first of all who doesn't really want to say much called what's her name?
I know her last name is March. She is a March.
Yeah, it's you find her twice and she says
Ruth, I think this is.
No, it's not Ruth. Ruth is the other girl that's going out with Brian.
I want to say Beverly March, but that's Stephen King's It.
Just see if we'll see if we can find it. Just give us a second. And then the other one that you find is a old drunk called Zakar, is it?
Zadok. Zadok Allen is my number one favorite character in this game.
I know.
Disappearance of Brian Burnham. It's Brian Burnham who disappeared.
Yeah, he disappears, but you find this woman around the town. She doesn't want to say her name first of all. She says you best leave. you ask the
She
driver.
doesn't seem as manky as everyone else.
No, she seems more normalized. Um,
Hmm.
but then she disappears. Um, you find her again later, and then you have to get into the national store, the national whatever it is called store. Have you found the name of this woman yet?
Not yet. Still looking for it.
Well, while you're looking, so um, you then have to go into the place where Brian works. But there's a small little problem when you actually have to try and go into this building. It's being guarded by the local police, who are less than friendly or keen to see you if you are seen in this particular alleyway. So
Hmm.
you have to follow. I think it's a sergeant. He's also less than friendly to talk to you, and you hide behind some crates. You then walk by, and then you have to get into the building. You block it off with a. You lock the
Rebecca
door.
Lawrence. Her name
That's
is Rebecca Lawrence.
that's the one. So Rebecca is the one that kind of is willing to talk to you, but is very scared. And then later she does talk to you. We'll get on more into that in a minute. Um, and then you get into the into the shop, and you block off the door or you lock the door, and you look around, and the trigger for the door being broken down by the police, who somehow realise you're in the building, but I don't know how they do that. Um, break down the door, and the key of what to do is when you look at the safe, you get a bottle of alcohol and a hatch lifting tool, which enables you to lift the hatch behind the counter, which if you don't look around and look for, you may not realise is there. Um, if you get caught before you know where this bit is, which I think you got caught the first time. Um,
I think I got caught on purpose to show what happens.
oh,
That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
okay. Um, but nothing much happens. You don't really get taken to prison, which may have actually been an interesting angle if they're actually taking you to the cells.
You
Um,
just get shot. You just get shot.
yeah, you get shot, you die, and then but if you manage to get down to the cellar, the ladder collapses, which why wouldn't it? And then you get locked in the cellar. Whoever's down there, you can rat. Um, and they
And
close the.
you do escape.
You do, um, and then you're in the cellar. You have to you push a what is it a ladder that collapses a wall into a cellar with a bones in it, which have obviously been there for a long time. The story behind that, I don't actually know the story behind those bones. And then you find a dead hag or a dead woman um, hanging by her neck who's been there for a long time. Obviously, Jack sees it and the camera zooms in, and he's like, and during this game, you know when Jack also, this is one thing I got from a review, so this is something I'll tell you guys as the viewers who may try this game. I would say give this game a go. I wouldn't say dismiss it completely, but I would say going into it with an open mind. That as you go through the game, if you don't know what you're doing, Jack will often whisper to himself what you should be doing. So if you listen to what he says, even though sometimes the voice actor wasn't very loud in what he was saying, he says stuff
Put
that,
subtitles on if you can.
yeah, if you can put them on, put them on. But he often will whisper or will mutter what you should do. So just listen to what he says because you might get a hint. Um, and then you get,
Because important thing to note about this game, um, quest markers, listed objectives, a map. None of these things are provided for you.
no,
This is the one of the harshest survival horror games I've ever played because it will not throw you a single bone. It is a challenge.
I think, given what you just said there, Eric, that games like this that don't hold your hand, that don't give you a hint, don't really tell you what to do or how to do it, these are where games, I think, excelled. And I think when games give you like these like golden um, a golden path along the ground that you had to follow to your next objective. That's all very well and good, but a game like this where the idea is that you have to go and hunt round for objectives and stuff of what to do. And even when I play this game, even though I know what I'm doing, I'm still getting stuck on this game. I'm still taking far longer in Innsmouth than I would normally. The idea of what you need to do to actually trigger the next part of it is actually to give the bottle of rum that you see to old Zainok, and he gives you a key to the poorhouse. Um,
It's a lot of adventure game logic too, but not in a bad way.
yeah. Also, you find out about I think it's the owner of the store um, in Innsmouth is what's he called? Uh,
His name doesn't really matter, but some really fun stuff happens at this house.
yeah, but you have to go and see him. Um, while you go through the poorhouse, you see that these poor souls are not treated very well at all. There's a cloaked figure in one of the. I don't know if you saw it, but near his house, there's a cloaked figure in one of the little square sort of backyards,
Mm-hmm.
where this guy is just sitting there not doing anything, and you try and talk to him, and they don't say anything. I've never actually known who that person is, but I feel like they're someone that you do know, but they don't say anything. I think you
I
see him.
think that might be Obadiah Marsh or Obed Marsh.
Could well be. Never thought about that. But so you go into Waters. Is it not Waters? Um, what's his name? He has his little girl Rihanna, doesn't he?
Ramona.
Ramona.
Ramona Waits. Waits, I think.
Yeah. So Thomas Waits is away. Ramona is the only one in the house. She invites you
And her
in.
her mama's upstairs.
Yeah, we'll get to that in
She said,
just one
yeah,
one
but
second
she says my mom's upstairs.
because she's been bad.
Yeah.
But she's drawing. If you look at her pictures, they're very well detailed, and I think this is done deliberately. They actually show, I think they show Cthulhu, if I remember rightly, or some kind of creature that is representing her mum. Um,
That's not Cthulhu. That's something we'll get into what these things are a bit later.
so you also find a picture of the three, but the corner of it's been torn off because her mum's not a person.
Hmm.
Um,
Her mom is a deep one.
yeah, how she becomes one, I don't know. But
You don't become one; you just are one. These are the children of Cthulhu, not of Cthulhu. These are the children of Dagon and Hydra, and this is actually spoiling Shadow over Innsmouth if you haven't seen it or read it.
I haven't read it at all.
The people of Innsmouth, the reason they're becoming all fishy is because they are mating with the fish people.
Ah,
That's the whole underlying mystery. And the point of view character in that story ends up being one of them too.
okay. So you go up to the attic, you open up the little viewer through the door, and she bursts out of the room and attacks you,
Throws her
knocks you
daughter.
out, and then you hear Thomas moaning, and Ramona has been killed horribly, um, and the other one and the creature has run away. Um, and then the police burst in and say, "You'll swing for this, Waters." Not Waters, Waits.
Yeah,
And
they don't blame you; they blame him.
yeah, which is surprising. And he said, "Oh, he didn't do anything." And he goes, "In Innsmouth, we do things the old way." Um,
And
and then
then you go back to your hotel, and there,
starts one of the
but
most intense.
word of advice: before you go to bed, lock the door. Hell, push the cabinet in front of the door if you can this early, because otherwise, if you leave that door open, as soon as you go to bed and wake up, dead, just dead.
Well, I think I don't think you can close that door and leave it unlocked. I think he makes you lock it. That's what happened.
No, he doesn't.
Really?
You don't have to. It's a beginner's mistake. And if you go to bed without locking the door, there's a cutscene where they just come in and kill you.
Ah.
It's quite clever. It's one of my favorite quote unquote beginner traps.
Do you show that off in your LP?
I can't remember. I think I do, or it depends how much of a frustration loading saves is in the game. But now begins the best part of the game, which is it's called Attack of the Fishmen. You can fight. If you have ever heard of this game, it's because of this bit.
Well, this begins one of the first scripted chase sequences in this game where um, the ideal thing is run.
Just run,
Yeah,
lock, throw doors shut, lock them, block them with stuff. Do not, whatever the hell you do, do not try to fight these guys.
you can't punch, you can't do
They
anything.
got guns, you got nothing. Just run. Do not stop. Don't look around. Ignore everything. Just go.
So when you start this part, you have to go from your room because they're like curses. It's locked from the inside. Break the door down, you damn fool. So you go through the first door, you lock it. There's then another door which is not locked, which you have to lock. Then you have to push a cabinet, which for some reason Jack is super slow at pushing anything that he ever tries to push. And then you go through that door, you lock that one, and the next door is not, the lock is broken, so you have to also block that one off with a cabinet. And then you go out the window and you have to jump across a small gap. Um, and they then suddenly appear in front of you because they smash down everything they can. And then you then get down to another room where a resident will wake up and will scream. And then you'll have a second. But if you go out this second window to the left, there is a health kit, but they can go out on the balcony with you. But the first time you did this jump, I think you didn't make it. It's one of my highlights from this part actually. It was really funny. It's just like your reaction more than anything. But you do it the second time. And then you go up to the roof and you have to get into the warehouse. And you then get in the warehouse. You can stop and listen to the guys talking if you want, which adds to a bit of the element of why they're doing it. He'll be dead by sunrise, all that good jazz. So all these evil people wanting to kill you. And then after you go through that warehouse, you then have to go up on the roof again and run all the way to the opposite end where there's a vent. I think you went the wrong way, first of all. But I think you said you were playing this blind, weren't you? So
Yep.
you didn't know where you were going. So that's fine. Parts of the blind playthrough is that you don't know where you're going. And then you get down to the street where you have to avoid the fisherman again. And then you suddenly hear a scream and a collapse of something inside a room or inside another building, and this guy called William has fallen from the top all the way down and died. And he advises you that the only place these people won't follow you is the sewers.
But wait, stranger, you ever heard of a Shogoth? No, no. What's a Shogoth? Never mind.
Yes.
Like teasing a future level.
Oh, also during the first few levels as well, you often get um what's it called? Sort of viewpoints through someone else's field of view where you're watching Jack the whole time. It's on the
These are
roof,
cool. These are really cool.
and it doesn't show you who's watching you. If you look around, you might catch a glimpse, but be very lucky if you do. But this thing will follow you. I don't think you see it too much later, but and then you get to a point where you're on this massive, big, sloping road, this hill road, with this truck, and the idea is to get in the back of the truck and ride it down into the sewer down below. avoiding the fishermen because there's no way you can do it otherwise. Having said that, if you go down normally without doing that and you jump down, you will die, but somehow you survive being in the back of a truck, where you have no real protection, really. So you get down, you have to break a fan, and then you're in the sewer. And
Yes.
there's all this hazardous stuff everywhere that's corrosive and will damage
Now,
you.
I will also point out, you still have no kind of item even remotely resembling a weapon.
Nothing.
Nothing. You're still screwed.
So you get into the sewer. You have to. You hear Ramona singing, and I don't think you. I hope that I would see it on your playthrough, but I didn't, unfortunately. But you can find her at different points where she'll look at you and run away.
Because she is dead at this point,
Yeah,
right?
she is dead, but you can hear her singing. If you go the bit where you have to get the bit later on, where you're at the prison or the jail cell, there's actually a bit where you can see her behind one of the grates, and she'll run off. Um,
Mm.
but I think they only trigger a certain way. So you get into the sewer, you have to clear some horrible bath of muddy, scummy water, um, which I never can work out that puzzle um, at all. Uh, and then after you've done that, you then oh, also the other person we actually forgot. I was going to say this is that earlier in the game you meet the only other friendly face in town, a chap called Mackie, who is an
Yes.
undercover federal agent who is investigating Innsmouth for his own reasons, but he won't tell you what.
Well, no, of course not. He's with the FBI.
And then,
Why would he tell some civilian?
oh yeah, totally get that. But you then meet him um, in after you get out the sewer, um, and you when you do meet him, he tells you that the jail cell is just over the other side. Um, go at your own risk. And he doesn't offer to try and help you get out or anything like that. But then you have to avoid Inspector Rotes, I think his name is, or Sergeant Rotes. Um,
Yeah, the cop who arrested Tom.
yeah, and then at this point, I think I was watching your video on this. I think you didn't. I don't know how you got into the police station. I can't remember how you did it. I think I missed it, but you can actually get in there by going up to the cells, and behind there's Brian in one of the cells, and there's a mad dude in the next cell that is going
There's a
crazy.
man who's actually referencing my all-time favorite H.P. Lovecraft story, Rats in the Walls.
Yeah. So
He's
his
just
name,
screaming about rats in the walls.
I think his name's Henry. He's like, he's making these weird noises. And if you go up to his cell, he will start screaming, and you can use this distraction to get into the door that that Sergeant Ropes leaves open. After you get the crowbar, of course, and then you can shut the door and lock it. Doing it this way won't really set off anything, but I think it makes Ropes stay outside. Um, Obviously, Brian won't talk to you. He doesn't trust you. Um, oh crap, we missed out the church bit, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, completely skipped over that bit. Um,
Oh, the people can play it and find it. It's not like super plot relevant.
well, so going back briefly, you eventually meet up with Rebecca, who you're in her house. She agrees to escape with you, and then you run away. You get ambushed. She gets quote unquote killed. Um, and then you're in the church, and you just hear them say, "If you come out now, we won't gut the girl's carcass." Um, you then have to get underneath where her father was looking up stuff on the cult and on the Order of Dagon. Um, and then that's when you then eventually get through um, to the prison. The whole point of the prison is to try and gain Brian's trust. You do this by showing a postcard,
Mhm.
um, and then you,
From Ruth, I believe.
yeah, from Ruth, yeah,
Is that the one from Ruth or the one that they sent you to hire you?
I believe so. Um, and then you have to find a rat down in the sewer to show Henry that the rats are dead. There are no rats in the walls. He goes crazy, starts hitting his head on the bars. And once you show Brian the postcard, he will then trust you. Um, you then have to get upstairs and from the chief inspector, um, get the keys. And the way you can do this is by distracting him by turning off the water and then hiding somewhere else, which is very difficult. Um, you can actually, I think, get in and out of there without being seen at all. And then in the main office, you get probably the first time, which everyone will feel relieved when they get it, is a shotgun and a pistol.
You also find a melee weapon.
Yeah, crowbar.
Now, do not get excited that you have found these things, because you're forgetting that everyone else also has guns. This is not a game about fighting people. This is a game about, in some situations, sure, but usually hot run and hide. You, the gun is a trick. The gun is really just a trick.
Yeah, the gun. The thing they've done with this game, which is a lot of games don't do, is that there's no HUD display, there's no ammo counter, there's no health meter. We'll get into the health meter and health um, bit in just a second, but there's no way of telling how much ammo you've got left. If you run out of ammo, your gun clicks, you have to reload. I don't know if you reload before that, you lose what you have in your magazine already, if it's realistic like that. A lot of games are like that. But then you have to get through, and once you save Brian, you have to go through the underground, open the door for him, and he fixes a old car, which for some reason he knows how to fix cars now. Um, and then you meet Mackie again, and you're like, who do you really work for? He tells you that he works for the bureau. Um, he won't tell you much more than that, but he does let you know that. And it's funny how Mackie was just in a room or in a corridor before the prison, and now suddenly he's moved quite conveniently and quite unchallenged to this new place where you couldn't even get in through the door, and you have to go in through the sewers.
Well, he's the FBI. He clearly has some skills, right?
Yeah.
Freaking Francis York Morgan over here.
So you then have to go back and get Rufy's brooch in the jail safe, which is just sprung on you. You can't open the safe before that because you don't know the combination. But the code is 1846, I believe, which is the year you see in the journal. Also, in one of the cells, you see Thomas Waits. He's cut himself with his razor blade, and because of Ramona's death. So that's quite sad to a character that probably is is a likable character. And then you get Rufy's brooch. You then have a driving section where you have ammo in the back, but Brian is not the best driver in the world.
No, he's quite bad at it.
Yeah, the first corner you go around, he manages to stall the car.
Yeah.
And then eventually you get
And
to...
important, you do not have unlimited ammo in the back. There's a box each of extra. Once you're done, you're done.
I didn't.
All you can do is hide.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it does not refill.
But you then get to the next bit, which is in a fish factory.
The cannery, yeah.
Yeah. I noticed on your video that you went from the start. You went back on yourself to where the road had collapsed, and you found an extra health box and ammo box, which I never knew existed. I was rather surprised by that when I saw it. And then you have to get through this factory, where I think you like me, you got stuck on that bit where it doesn't exactly remember we both said that this game gives you no checkpoint markers, nothing to indicate where you need to go. What you need to do is go right to the bit where these crates are filling the corridor, and go through a small gap underneath them, which unless you know it's there, you don't know it's there.
Hmm.
And then you get through the next bit, and if you kill all the enemies like you did, you then see Ruth up on the rafters. You have to save her. I can't remember how to save her. You have to get
I
up and
don't save her.
yeah, I know you don't save her. You have to get up and round. You can save her. It is possible. But if you don't, and all she does is about to collapse, and she's very worried, very stressed out, and then she falls, which you found hilarious.
Look, the way I looked at it, she's from Innsmouth, right?
Yeah.
She's a fish person. Let her die.
Mm.
She's not human. She's a fish.
Well, either way, she dies in your playthrough at this. She lived during mine, and you leave. You then get ambushed. If you don't save her, you get ambushed right after you leave. Brian gets shot, I think in the head, um, and then the car turns over, and then you find yourself in Arkham Asylum, or back in Arkham Asylum, where you were in the 6 years between the prologue and the first chapter.
To clarify, um, it's the asylum in Arkham. It is not called Arkham Asylum, though. Yes, Arkham from Batman is based on the H.P. Lovecraft's town Arkham. The asylum is the Miskatonic Asylum.
Didn't know that.
That's just a bit because I've read a lot of H.P. Lovecraft. So I know a few of these things
Ah,
and reviewed quite a lot of the movies on my show, Mindbreakers.
I have to probably look at them. Are there films of this
Oh,
stuff?
there's a few, yeah. There's a few, yeah.
Are they any good?
Um, it depends on the movie. Some are good, some are not. The Reanimator movie's pretty good. The Unnamable's pretty good. Um, Color Out of Space is really good. Just depends on what the story is. The Cthulhu stuff doesn't adapt very well. I've realized. Because I
Uh,
mean, you can't make a movie about something you can't look at that with something that cannot be shown on video because it's apparently so horrifying that you lose your mind by looking at it, like Cthulhu or Dagon. It doesn't adapt well.
ah. So then you wake up in the asylum, and J. Edgar Hoover is standing over you with a doctor who uses electroshock therapy pods on you, or irons on you, whatever they're called, and also I think inject also gives you injections to make you speak as well. I think.
Yep.
Um,
This is
and
back when people thought electroshock worked.
yes,
That wasn't just fucking torture.
it doesn't work.
No, it's just torture.
And you're given a choice of accompanying the FBI back into Innsmouth to our raid on the Marsh factory, or you can stay
Stay
and,
here and rot.
or yeah, you can be arranged to have your old room back. I love how they make Edgar Hoover sound like he's this not very nice person.
Oh,
Where
J. Edgar Hoover was an awful, awful man.
I thought I
He
didn't think.
can't be the director of the FBI without being an asshole.
Mm. But he's portrayed in this as a real hard ass, and one doesn't really give you a choice.
No.
Um,
Because personally, knowing what I know of the Cthulhu mythos, I'll take the room, please.
yeah. But then you accompany him back in. He says, "Stay in the car. You're a man to be trusted, even though you spent some time in the asylum. And I've given you armaments, even though he takes all your guns away and gives you a pistol and a shotgun." Um, and then they open the main doors, which is the worst mistake you can do when trying to run. You don't never run for the front gate. That never works. So then you have to get. He then tells you to get round the gunner. You get in through the side door. You shoot him
Because
in the head.
obviously the marsh, because they decided to take the front door. Now the marsh people, now the marshes know you're there, and they don't want you there, so they will shoot to kill.
Yeah, they will shoot to kill you. Um, uh, Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover is quite nice to you here. He stands and chats with you. He says, "This is what you got to do." I think he starts at this point. I think he's kind of not liking you, but I think he's like, "Well, I need you to help with this." Even though Jack never went into the Marsh factory in the first opening bit, um, and you then have to go and restart the elevator or the big lift, which involves going up and down. And the enemies do respawn on this level
Oh yeah.
a lot. And then when you get the lift restarted, you then work your way back up to Edgar, and he's like, "Okay, what did you find? You need to go back down there." And when you say no, he's like, "You don't really have a choice, Mr. Waters."
You get a really annoying puzzle with valves.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Really annoying bit. So then you see this. Well, you have to chase the Marsh's son, Jacob Marsh's son.
Hmm.
What's he called?
Jacob Marsh. Oh, Jacob Marsh is the one you chase. He's the son of Obed Marsh.
Yeah. So you have to. He's your target. He's the one you have to chase down to find. And then you see later on, um, before you go back into the factory, this really creepy and not very nice scene where you see this agent's view of you, and he gets put into a crusher, which is one of the most gruesome deaths I think I've ever seen.
It's
Um,
uh, it's pretty tame for Lovecraft.
yeah, I take your word for that. Um, and then you eventually capture him, and then you're made to go back in. Like he has a key on him. There's a secret level below the bottom level. You're made to go down there, and then you have that bit with the valve puzzle. Um, and then you get chased as well. Where you have to do the steam. You have to like get the tentacles to get away from the
Yeah, there's
walkway.
a Shogoth, by
Yeah,
the way.
a Shogoth, which then you then get rid of, and then it chases you. Um, which I would say turn around and close the doors and lock them, but it doesn't really make a difference, I don't think.
Also, if you see the Shogoth, you're done.
Yeah, if
If
you
you look at the Shogoth, your sanity will drop to zero.
yeah, so be careful of that. And then you then eventually get through to where you eventually escape, um, and then the factory blows up. Edgar Hoover checks on you, makes sure you're all right. The kind man that he is, even though a few hours earlier he was threatening you with being locked up in an asylum for the rest of your life. And then are you with the army next?
Yeah, you're on the boat.
No, I think you go through. Don't you go through? Aren't you in Innsmouth still with the army, and then you have to go on the ice, and
Oh
then
yeah, you attack Innsmouth with the army.
yeah. So you attack Innsmouth with the army. You then have to fight this. You find one of the only surviving army members, and then he gets killed almost immediately. A likable guy, which you actually learn to love very, very quickly when you first meet him because he is a private, he is young, he does want to help you, and then he says, "I'll do this, you do that," and then he then gets caught by this deep. Is it a deep one or one of those other creatures inside that
Is it the
tunnel?
tentacle? Is it the tentacly faced one?
Yes.
That is a Cthulhu. Chthoni. It's a child. It's a child of Cthulhu.
So
And the one you kill with the flamethrower that's on the ground.
yeah, so you have to tempt him towards the entrance, otherwise he won't come out. Um, and then you find the unfortunate fate of the young private dead. And then you eventually go underneath the main house, or one of the main like bases of the Order of Dagon, and you spy Mackie, as well as these annoying starfish which like to attack you. Um, and then you agree to help Mackie out, and then when you do eventually help him, um, he accompanies you upstairs. You say you'll go down. If he opens it, you'll go down. He says, "Are you sure? Let me come with you." He doesn't want to send you off on your own. And then you're on the boat. After that, something
And we
happens.
get one of the best boss fights ever, where Dagon shows up, and well, you got the boat cannon. When he comes up the front of the boat, you shoot him. Otherwise, when he goes along the sides, find a ring and grab onto it with the pickup button. And when he comes up behind, take cover. Like it takes about 4 or 5 shots to put him down, and good luck.
Yes, and if you also the advice we would give you for the PC version is if you're gonna fight this fight, if you don't put this patch
You
on,
have to fight the fight. By the way, this is not an optional
yeah,
boss
it's
fight.
not an option. It's not an option. But the thing you must do as well is the three things we've just said, or that Merrick's just said. But then also, if you do this fight and you don't add the fan-made patch, the fight will go on forever. Or the point we have to find the lights on the rift on the rift will go on forever. Um, and simply won't end. It will just bug out. So you have to add the patch where it will only do it 3 or 4 times, and then it will let you continue. And then you're on the part where they take sacrifices out to, uh, which I've been told that you don't have to grab those rings with the water splashing up because it doesn't work and it doesn't take you away anyway. And then you find the
It's
ring.
best. It's best to hold on.
It is best to hold on, but you don't. You can just walk through it. Be careful of traps as well in this. There are traps, like
A
things
lot
will.
of a lot of starfish bastards too.
Oh yeah, a lot of those starfish things that like to attack you. And then after you do this bit, you then I can't remember what's after this bit now. It's completely gone out of my
Well,
head.
you go through the tunnels and you reach the esoteric order of Dagon, their island base.
Oh, and also you'll also get locked up as well. You'll get caught.
Yeah, and you escape and you sneak through some tunnels. You get to Obed Marsh's office. You quickly drop down out of the vent. You grab his knife and just murder him.
Well, before that, you fight those big worm things in that tunnel where you have the platform.
Yes, that was fun too.
Yeah, like you would fall off a slight drop and like you would break both your feet, and I think you were angry to say the least.
A little bit. Yeah, I'd say a little bit,
Miffed.
a little bit. Yeah.
So you then kill Obed Marsh with his own knife. You then get the Book of Dagon back as well, and then you have to escape, I think, from the facility. You go through. You have to go all the way back to the portal, um, which you came through first of all from the base where you leave Mackie, and then when you come through, Edgar Hoover turns up and finds you. I think he basically saves you, and then the game kind of like gets the ending bit where you've got one of two endings. You've got the good ending or the bad ending, but
It
both
depends on
basically
many factors, including whether you saved Ruth. It depends on how often you've saved. Apparently, a whole
how
lot of
many
factors.
journal entries you find as well.
Yep.
And then once you finish that point, you then you then meet up with Mackie and Edgar Hoover again, who obviously they've been looking for you, so they're concerned, and they find you and they help you out. Uh, but then the game basically ends with you being in the asylum anyway, um, and your last kind of like suicide note where like I've gone to the dark corners of the earth, and basically Jack's insanity gets to the point where he can't cope. I don't know how he gets back in Arkham again, but something happens which makes him go back.
On the island, you get some cool stuff. You find the Yith lightning gun
Oh yes.
in the fortress, and you kill Hydra, the mother of the monsters, the wife of Dagon, the mate of Dagon. You kill her, and it's revealed to you that you are if you get the good ending, that you are in fact a Yithian. You are part Yithian, and that while you had lost time, a Yithian was controlling your body, and you were controlling a Yithian's body, and you were learning stuff about the Cthulhu mythos, about the worlds beyond your world, all that fun stuff was going on when you had lost 6 years of your life.
Yes. So, favorite part of the game.
For me, the favorite part of the game is the fishman chase.
Is that your favorite, really?
It is, for an example of how to adapt a horror scene to a video game perfectly. Yes.
Okay, worst bit?
I don't know. I don't really think it has a worse bit, despite it being insanely difficult. And by the way, this is one game I did actually complete without cheats. I probably maybe the Marsh Refinery if I have to pick one. But I think it all worked as a whole. Like it's a horror game. It's supposed to be challenging. It does the horror well, but never crosses the line into just being frustrating as a game. And I think it all worked pretty well for me.
Okay, well, best bit for me, I'd probably say maybe, I don't know, I think maybe the Attack of the Fisherman is actually better than what I believe it is. Purely because it's how to do a chase scene right. It's where about the fact that you can't fight back, you have to run. Whereas some things you find things along the way, or you're optional, or you can stop and choose to fight if you want to. Um, and that they also that they change it up a lot. So there's a bit in the hotel, there's a bit partially on the streets, and then kind of like sneaking around the police station as well, which I also like. I like the police station bit. Worst bit, I'd say the airfield tunnels. Um, I don't like that bit at all. It's so confusing. I get lost very easily. You actually can skip over one part of it where you go into a room where there's a dying deep one who helps you, but if you don't know it's there, you'll skip over it. Um, how about a rating for you?
The rating for this one, um, and I'd have to give it pretty high. I'd probably give it around a 7 or 8. Like this game is one of the few I've beaten, and this is especially consider its difficulty one of the few I've beaten all the way through without cheats on the channel. And I just think everything about it worked to make a really good survival horror game.
I think you had mixed feelings during your playthrough.
I had mixed feelings during the playthrough, but there's the difference between heat of the moment playing it and like looking at it as a whole.
Yeah, I think maybe for me, I'd say I don't think it's an 8. I think maybe a high 6, maybe 6 out of 10.
Like for example, on the whole, I like Ocarina of Time. Granted, I think the Water Temple is the most tedious thing ever made
Oh
interactively.
yeah,
Like I
especially if you make that
fucking
one,
hate that level.
especially if you make that one mistake and you have to start the game over again.
Yep, I love that. I love that feature too. But as a whole, looking at it when you're not actually actively playing that level, it's fine. It's a good game. Same with this.
Yeah, I think
I mean,
the game is good.
the could be a little more forgiving with the health, mainly more realistic to the where it's not. Oh, you drop 2 feet, you drop 2 feet, both your legs break off.
Oh yeah, that's one thing we didn't actually say. So going back very
You
briefly onto the health system.
you have infections, poisons, and abrasions.
Yeah, and also
Abrasions you heal with bandages. Infections you heal with like alcohol, and poisoning you heal with antidotes. Poison will happen very rarely. It's just starfish who do that to you.
but you also can break your feet, legs as well.
Yeah, but and you get splints to fix those.
Yeah, but if you stop and heal, and you do that in the midst of people firing at you,
You
you
can't.
well, no, it's very advised to stop because you can if you want to. On the rooftop, for example, when you try to stop and heal and then you couldn't because you're being shot at, you have to get in that vent on that roof of that warehouse and heal in there. Um, but the health system, I think, is unusual. You don't have a health bar or anything like that. You can just die from having a complete mental breakdown where
You
you're
can use morphine to help with your sanity. I'm quite proud of this. I barely used any morphine in my playthrough. I did not get addicted to morphine. You can. Um, I think I only used it during the Shogoth because it's a Shogoth,
yeah.
and like
I
you just
think you're
lose
going to
your
use
shit.
it once every little while anyway.
Oh, you can use it as much as you want, but you'll lose your goddamn mind permanently because you'll get addicted to morphine.
Yeah, so I definitely would say the game is worth looking at.
Oh, definitely.
It's definitely one of the few games that will probably have you on your edge of your seat. Um,
Because it's actually scary. It's
it,
not like jump scares, Five Nights at Freddy's. Nah,
it's
it creates a
psychological.
really good spooky atmosphere, very claustrophobic, and because of how hard the game is, it is stressful to play.
Yeah, it's very psychological. So, it's something that another YouTuber that I watch called Black Shadow, he describes Silent Hill, for example, as psychological horror, whereas Resident Evil is survival horror. So two very different elements of horror, both use the horror element differently. Um, Survival is obviously surviving, and psychological is survival as well. But
I'd say this is both. This straddles the gap. This is both survival and psychological.
yeah,
Because you
definitely.
have to conserve your ammo. You have to conserve your medical supplies.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will have nothing when you really need it.
Also, a tip as well that your boss gave you about this game is to save your Tommy gun for the deep ones.
Yes. Yeah, I remember when I place I used to work, I was talking about the game with him, and he told me to save the Tommy gun for that because he had also played it. He was cool. I like that boss. It was good.
But yeah, if you want to check out the game, they're both on both our channels. And if you want to check out the game yourself and you need any tips, just let us.
If you want to play the game, the whole thing's on GOG.
Yeah,
And I'm
or
assuming because it's on GOG, it already has the patch.
I don't know.
Usually GOG's really good at that. So
I feel it's also on Steam as well.
true, but from GOG you will have it pre-patched and ready to go.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll include the fan-made patch in that, but they might do.
GOG would. GOG usually does. So I'd recommend. So happy Halloween, guys! You have a few more of these coming this month. Don't forget if you're watching this from my channel, go check out Classix at Classix Gamer. Those a link in the description below, and also give his Twitch a look. Who knows? He'll be streaming this Halloween some spooky shit. I'm hoping.
Probably the Sons of the Forest.
Nice.
We've been doing a lot of the forest recently, me and Dragon on the Twitch. So if you want to see us do the sequel to that game, where it's completely not knowing what we're doing or where we're going, then be sure to come and look at it.
As opposed to you knowing completely what you're doing in your main playthrough.
Well, we were actually, I was trying to, because obviously we had Yeet to help us in the forest, and then he stopped joining us for a few weeks. So I had to kind of like remember where things were, and I've learnt where things are now, so I do know. So if you guys want to give the forest a go and you do get yourself stuck, if you ask me, I'll do my best to help you. The guides online aren't really that helpful because unless you know where these things are on the map, you're not going to be able to find them. But yeah, thank you very much for listening and watching, guys. And happy Halloween. And we will see you in next week's podcast. We've got some ideas what we're going to do. So I'm not sure which one is going to be next. You'll see, but it'll be one of the 4 that we've picked. I think we're looking at maybe 2 games that we've both enjoyed and 2 games maybe we haven't.
That we both very much didn't enjoy. And despite how stressful and hard this game is, and what a bad time one would have actually in it, this falls under enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, I would have said that, you know, when we were discussing what ones we wanted to talk about, I was looking at this as more the one that we both found frustrating. But actually talking about it, I've actually switched my mind on that. I actually think that this game probably is on the more tolerable side, other than the other ones that we've got on the list that are not so much.
Like, it's frustrating, but it works. It's at the end of the day a good game.
Yeah. Anyway, if you haven't viewed Merek's channel, go over and view that. Link will be in the description on my side as well. Also, at this point, probably by now would have started my second channel, which is the Twitch sort of archives of all my Twitch streams are going to go on there, not on the main Classic Gamer channel. So I probably am going to be very new starting out. So please go and help me grow on that side. A subscribe will be very much appreciated. Because I will be uploading either streams in their entirety with no edits or not in their entirety, in which case they'll be edited. But we will see you next week. We don't know what we're going to do next, but we're going to.
But hey, we'll see you then. We definitely will by the time we do the next episode.
Yes.
So see you guys next time, and happy Halloween.
And happy Halloween.
Wishing you the most frightening, scary, spooky, creepy, ghastly, ghoulish, grisly, wonderful time of the year.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.